Here's a fascinating conversation with Dennis Prager about anti-Semitism, where he points out what happens to countries which are anti-Semitic, where it leads them. He gives tremendous insight into why Jews thrive despite the anti-Semitism. He creates context in the numbers, comparing slavery in America to what happened in the Holocaust. Fascinating points here. You want to hear every point he's going to make over here.
Dennis, as a Jew yourself, when you saw what was going on with Kanye and the things he was saying, and then boom, Adidas, and his marriage, and everything you listened to, his comments about Hitler on Alex Jones, and now he's been kind of low key for the last 6 weeks, which I think is a great idea. The fact whoever he listened to, good for him to kind of taking a break, and apparently low key he got married to somebody that no one knows about. It was done in a very low key way. Now I don't know if this is true or not. It's just what the media is saying. How did you process what he was saying about Jews? Were you upset? Were you frustrated? Were you saying, well, partially he's right about this, well, he's not right about this, I can't believe he said that? What feelings did you get when he was saying what he was saying?
Well, I don't work on feelings as much. I try to think through rationally. Look, I wrote a book on anti-Semitism. I have fought it all of my life. The book is called Why the Jews? And there's every population has a percentage of people who hate Jews. There are a whole host of reasons why people might hate Jews. And as I point out in my book and in the piece I wrote on Kanye West, one of my columns, non-Jews need to know something. Anti-Semitism destroys societies. I'm not saying it because I'm a Jew. I'm saying it because it's true. No society has survived anti-Semitism. Spain was one of the greatest world powers. Then it had the Spanish Inquisition and the Spanish expulsion of the Jews in 1492. And have you heard from Spain in the last 500 years? It went downhill with the speed of a skier after it kicked out its Jews. Germany was the most vibrant culture in Europe before Hitler. Most vibrant in the arts, in philosophy, in science. And then they had the Holocaust. What do you hear from Germany? Volkswagen? I mean, what the economy is? Can people even name a living German? It's not to mention what was done to Germany as a result of Hitler being in power. The Germans, the losses in Germany, the rape of German women by Soviet soldiers. It is, you're an idiot if you're a non-Jew and you don't fight anti-Semitism. I don't even care if people like Jews. I care if people hate Jews. You don't like Jews? Don't like Jews? Fine. It doesn't. Everybody has a pet group that they may not like. Okay, the Germans didn't like the Poles didn't like the Russians don't like the Ukrainians. Everybody dislikes his neighbor. The British didn't like the Irish didn't like the British. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Jokes I used to hear that were called Polish jokes, when I went to England, the exact same jokes, but it was the Irish. The exact same joke. That was what was so funny about it. So it's dislike or don't like and hate. They're a very, very, very different thing. If a man can say Hitler was a good man, he is a sick poop. He's a sick puppy. I mean, there's something very scary about such a human being. And by the way, if you have to be a Jew to be offended by that, if somebody said Stalin was a good person, I would think the person is a sick puppy too. And it wasn't Jews who Stalin went after mostly. He killed 6 million, 5 million Ukrainians deliberately, plus 30 million Russians in general. But how many Americans died fighting Hitler? Isn't that an insult to all the Americans who died in World War II? Oh, Hitler was, oh, really? So these Americans died in vain. If Hitler was a good guy, then your grandparents who died or fought, they died in vain. They fought in vain. They got blinded or shell-shocked in vain. But people don't have they don't have either courage or a moral compass to distinguish between good and bad. So you don't like Jews? You don't like Jews? Fine. I'm not asking you. As I said, I'm repeating myself. Forgive me. But hating Jews is a very bad thing.
Dennis, what's the difference between a Jew saying there are still people who hate Jews versus a black a person on the left saying there are still people who hate blacks?
Yes, there are people who hate blacks. That's correct. But there are people who hate every group. Therefore, what? The question is how many? What percentage of whites in America hate blacks? It's tiny. The percentage is tiny. Okay? What was it? Larry Elder, who he could reel off these statistics. If you woke him up at 3 a.m., he's gifted in that way. I'm not gifted in that way to know statistics by heart, but he shows how many whites voted for Obama, and that. What was it? The percentage of whites who voted for Obama was smaller than the percentage of whites who voted for some white candidate. I don't remember what it was. This is the least racist, multi-ethnic country on the face of the earth in the history of the world. Here's a statistic no kid at Harvard knows. Okay, at Harvard, I'm picking the creme de la creme, and that is that ask a kid at Harvard. How many slaves, how many black slaves were brought to the United States in the transatlantic slave trade? And then ask them, how many blacks came to the United States voluntarily in the last 50 years? The first one is 360,000. The second number is 3 million. Are they stupid, by the way? If America is systemically racist, every black who moves here is an idiot. You can't have it both ways. And as I always say, any Jews moved to Germany in the 1930s? Not one. Right? Because that was systemically racist. Blacks moved to the United States because it's the best country on earth for a black to live, period. And they know it. Only the left denies it.
What was the number again? 360 and 3 million?
360,000 versus 3 million. That's correct. And, I take a risk with any one of these numbers because if it's wrong, I lose my reputation. But I've been broadcasting 40 years, and truth is my number one goal. Those are the data. And you know where I got the data on the 3 million from? William Safire in the New York Times in the 1980s. That's the amazing thing. That's where I got it.
Last thing here, a couple minutes. So, Holocaust, you got slavery, okay? We're not comparing two different tragedies, so that's not what we're going to be doing. We're not sitting here and saying which is worse, which is this. I'm not doing that.
I would. By the way, I believe in gradations of evil. Slavery is despicable and evil, but in the final analysis, you could at least live. In the final analysis, the Jews weren't slaves. Jews would have given their right arm to be slaves. They were exterminated. There is a difference, and people need to know that. I do make moral distinctions. If we don't, we lose our humanity.
That's not the question I was going to. My question wasn't that. My question was going to be, why after such a dramatic event that happened to Jews, okay, with the intentions of wanting to eliminate every single Jew on the face of the planet, right? This is what Hitler's vision was, right? Why is it years later, after a crisis like that, what values and principles helped Jews pretty much own Hollywood, do well in business, do well in life?
Oh, I'll tell you. I have the answer for
it.
Yeah. They didn't see themselves as victims. It is the most paralyzing thing in black life, what the left is doing to blacks. The left hates you blacks. No, they don't hate you. They have contempt for you. Telling you you're a victim is paralyzing. Jews did not walk around thinking they're victims even after the Holocaust.
Why not?
Because they knew it is completely self-destructive.
How did they know?
I don't know. It's a great... Well, maybe because of the Jewish tradition has always been, we take responsibility for our own suffering.
So why wouldn't the media try to target the Jews to make them feel victims? How come they didn't succeed with Jews?
The media doesn't have contempt for Jews. It has contempt for blacks.
Why not, though? Why not?
Because the left has contempt for blacks. Because they use them. They don't use Jews.
Why? Why can't they use Jews? If they can use any sect, they would do it. So why can't they use Jews?
Well, Jews are disproportionately on the left. I mean, there's no way around it. So in effect, there's no need to keep.
They already have them.
In a sense, yes.
I got you. Got you. Interesting.
I'm sorry to say.
So if you like this clip,
fascinating conversation, and Dennis Prager is really bringing out some very fundamental points. Anti-Semitism doesn't work out for anybody in the end, and the Jewish people are never victims. That's the reason why Jewish people continue to thrive. Why is it that Jewish people aren't victims where there are other minorities that choose to be victims? That's a very good question. No doubt, as Dennis Prager says, that it comes from our education, from what Judaism teaches us and has molded us never to be a victim. And that has a lot to do with the fact that we believe, everything to do, I should say, with the fact that we believe that everything that happens in our lives is by divine design for a purpose. So the question is, where is this leading us to? Well, we'll find out by putting forth our best effort and see where God wanted us to go with this. And that's how we see everything. So we're always putting forth our best effort. And as much anti-Semitism as there may be, we are God's chosen people. We are bound to God. God is eternal, and so are the Jewish people.